get scaled and how we can convert abilities into innovation and make enterprise out of it, right? So it's good to be here again, and as in our chat box, you can find the agenda of today's event there, right? So the first item on the agenda is to have a welcome address, a 5-minute welcome address, and in our midst, after the welcome address, I'll do introductions of persons that will be facilitating this particular session, right? So in our midst is the Chief Executive Officer of Shared Insights, who we have invited to give us a welcome address for this particular webinar that is organized by the Research to Enterprise unit of Apollo Global Innovation. So thank you so much. I would be asking Mr. Nkem Ogbuaku to please give us a 5-minute welcome address so I will go to the business proper for the day. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Deji, and good. I think it should be good morning and afternoon, wherever you are listening from. And thank you to Apollo Global Innovations. You are very welcome. Today, this is a rare privilege to have two distinguished professors who are making global impact available to help us learn and explore cross-border opportunities in Edinburgh, Scotland. We appreciate the head of delivery, data-driven innovation program at the University of Edinburgh, Professor John Scott, who as DDI's head of delivery is responsible for coordinating the delivery of a range of DDI initiatives that enable all of humanity to benefit from the data-driven innovation. We're also honored to have with us today Professor Gbenga Ebikunle. Gbenga is a professor and chair of finance at the University of Edinburgh. And as the director of industry, economy and society at Edinburgh Futures Institute, he leads on strategic finance and fintech initiatives and convenes the fintech and financial services research cluster at the University of Edinburgh. Sirs, you are very welcome. And by way of context, you are addressing a team who operate in an environment where the population of the country and data, for the most part, in the public sector, those data for decision making is still within the realms of estimates. That is by way of context. So we're actually looking forward to learning from you how to use data-driven innovations to explore identified opportunities, given the uniqueness of this environment. We will be expected to hear from you pathways of least resistance for value creation, possible challenges and mitigation, as well as how we can best position to create impact. Once more, professors, we want to say thank you for guiding us along a safe path for exploration of cross-border innovation opportunities. And you're welcome, sir. That wasn't up to 5 minutes, but I hope I hope we are comfortable to address a team that are mostly from Nigeria. I know some of us are outside Nigeria, but you're very welcome, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Nkem Ogbuaku. Thank you for the brief welcome address. I would just use your remaining minutes to tell people about Apollo Global, right? and to also let them know what we do again, right? Because I see, so basically, Opolo Global Innovation, like I mentioned earlier, it's an institution that's actually focusing on how innovation can thrive, how we get to convert the capabilities of youth, capabilities of researchers, capabilities of individuals into enterprise, into commercial assets. And we're doing this via previous platforms. We are strategic in partnering with institutions, successful institutions, and we are looking at it from the aspect of how can we replicate what institutions that like the University of Edinburgh, how can we replicate what they have done successfully in the UK? How can we replicate such in our context, in our local context here in Nigeria? And that's one of the reasons why we bring together these two fantastic professors from the University of Edinburgh to tell us about what they have done successfully, how are they working on the data-driven innovation, how is the FinTech Institute, the Edinburgh Future Institute, how have they been able to leverage on the talent community in this, in their, within their zone to make enterprise thrive and to make talent thrive in that particular space. So in that regard, I would just call on, I think we have Professor John Scott here now. Hello, Prof. Thank you for joining, right? And I will just call on Dr. Agatha Ogbe, who would give us a brief bio of Professor John Scott. After that, then we will go into the learning session by Professor John Scott. Thank you so much. Dr. Agatha Ogbe, can we have you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lady.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go on, we can hear you.
Okay, we're all welcome to this session of R2E webinar. So he is the head of delivery data-driven innovation. His career as a technology-led innovator stretches back to a time for data science, with a career enabling both established and emerging organizations to harness the power of breakthrough technology. John Scott is now leading the delivery of data-driven innovation program, a £600 million innovation network, helping organizations tackle challenges for industry and society by doing data right. And as we know that data is all about what we need to move organization forward. Can you all still hear me? I think I'm lost.
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Okay. John is responsible for coordinating the delivery of a range of co-created DDI initiatives that enables citizens and organizations alike to benefit from the data revolution. John chairs a social care charity and enjoys spending time with his two daughters. I have the pleasure to welcome to this webinar, John Scott, as our facilitator. You're welcome, sir.
Agatha, thank you very much for your introduction today, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you around what the Data-Driven Innovation Programme is. I'll try and make that a little bit more real for you in terms of the types of investments that we're making within the region. Those are great. There's a lot of, we're putting up a lot of buildings that will enable very interesting collaborations to happen as we move forward in time. However, for me, the interesting thing is what happens within those buildings. So what I'd like to do is to give you a flavour of some of the projects and the initiatives that are currently underway, and hopefully some of these initiatives may translate in terms of their intent into your own particular context as well. And then finally, I guess we've had the pleasure of hearing from a very many esteemed speakers as we've stood up and as we've developed the Data-Driven Innovation Programme. And I guess what I'd like to leave you with is some of the, maybe the deep thoughts that have come from those conversations that again might encourage thinking about how we innovate with data most effectively, and indeed how we could potentially make collaborations work as well. So hopefully that will be very useful. I have some slides, and I'm wondering if it's possible that I can share those slides. It seems to be saying that that screen sharing is disabled.
You can share your slide. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. So, can colleagues see those? See that slide? Okay.
Yeah, I can see your slide, but not yet on slide. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. So, is that okay now?
It's okay now. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. So as we've mentioned, the data-driven innovation is being run from the University of Edinburgh. The University of Edinburgh is a 500-year-old institution now, and was originally established as a civic university. So the linkage between town and gown was historically very, very important to the institution. The Data-Driven Innovation Programme is part of a major economic development investment within my little part of the United Kingdom, and it encompasses about 1.5 million people. And I think quite interestingly, this programme that I'll talk about, the Data-Driven Innovation Programme, once again is bringing the university sector together to work very closely with organisations and actors within the public sector, but also within the private sector as well. And so hopefully I'll bring that to life through the coming slides. So in terms of what's happening in Edinburgh, I think the first thing to recognise is that Edinburgh has been doing data for a very long time now, and indeed next year we will be celebrating 60 years of artificial intelligence being undertaken at the University of Edinburgh, and that was initiated by Professor Donald Mickey in his experimental programming unit back in 1963, that came out of, I guess, a lot of the work that was done around encryption as a result of, I guess, hostilities around the Second World War. What's interesting to note about Edinburgh is, I guess, people will recognise and will understand London as being a global hub for digital and data. But very interestingly, Edinburgh, as a location within the UK, is now the fastest growing digital hub, and over the last 10 years has been outperforming areas like London in terms of growth of employment within the digital and data sector here. So we have a very strong university base. We have a very vibrant company base who are working within this field as well. And so the Data-Driven Innovation Programme is intending to supercharge our activities around data as a driver of the economy within the region as we move forward through very disruptive and challenging times. So the programme itself, as I've mentioned, is a £660 million investment very, very significant investment from all parties concerned. It's a 15-year programme, and out of that £660 million, then about 270 million funding is coming from the UK government, and we also have a devolved assembly here in Scotland. So those two organisations, who don't always see things in exactly the same way, have come together to provide funding for this initiative. In context, that the £270 million that's mentioned there is the biggest ever innovation award that's been made by UK government, certainly to an academic institution, and it may be the largest innovation award that's ever been made by UK government, full stop. So this is, it's a big initiative. It is a flagship initiative, and frankly speaking, if we don't end up positively changing the lives of people in the region in which that we work and live, then I will have failed. It's so very, very significant initiative that's very important to all of us that's working within it. Now, in terms of how the principles under which we are taking the programme forward, then we keep talking about doing data right. We're not going to pretend that existing digital and data architectures are perfect. There are lots of challenges in there that I'll mention, I guess, as we go forward. But certainly, we're looking to put the ethics of data and also fair business models where there is a reasonable value exchange between the people providing data and the people that are using data, that those are core principles at the heart of what we're doing. There's very esteemed and knowledgeable colleagues on this call, and so I think you'll see that this notion of putting data ethics and fair data principles at the heart of initiatives is not always the case in terms of what we've seen around the globe. Just to give you a picture of the programme itself, then we believe that key to the effective use of the types of breakthrough initiatives that my colleagues like Gabengi are working on a regular basis is to ensure that industry and academia breathe the same air. To that end, a major area of investment in this programme is to establish lots of new spaces where researchers, students, and other partners can come together to challenge, create, and enable change through collaboration. To put that number into some kind of context, then 53,000 square meters equates to about 9 football pitches of collaboration space that is being created across Edinburgh. And those collaboration spaces are intended to address areas of opportunity in key sectors to our region. So public sector is very, very important. And as Gabengi will mention, financial services and fintech as well are very important sectors to our region. We also have a very active tourist economy and visitor economy. And we have the world's largest arts festival hosted in the city every August. Those are examples of the types of sectors that we are seeking to address and to positively change through data as we move forward and deliver this initiative. However, you can't have a data-driven innovation programme unless you have data. So we are working very hard across a number of different domains to establish agreements that will provide this community that we're building with access to data sets, and it allows them to undertake research in different ways or to develop new products and new services in very safe environments where data it can't be used in inappropriate ways. And so we're doing that through this facility that we call the Edinburgh International Data Facility. So that's a data hosting service, but also provides a set of tools and services that allow users to make use of those data assets that we're collecting. And of course, we are a university, and we recognise the importance of skills development. And if we are going to provide the local economy with the skills that it will need in order to properly harness data as we move forward. Now, that's not only about developing skills in the type of student who might normally attend an institution like the University of Edinburgh, but that also means with working with other education partners, right through from young people through to people within the college sector within the region as well. So, for example, my sister-in-law is head of a school in Edinburgh, and she has been provided with lots of Internet of Things technology and support so that her kids can be working and understanding the implications of data right from the age of 5 and upwards. So skills is very, very, wherever we are in the world, then skills will be absolutely central to the delivery of an effective data-driven innovation ecosystem and community. So, as I've mentioned, there are a number of innovation hubs that we're pulling together. The key thing, though, for us is that these are not separate facilities, and instead they come together to form a single innovation hub that's working together so that organizations and people working within our ecosystem get a common feeling of bonding and belonging within that ecosystem as well. So it's not about what we're moving away from, is the idea of particular disciplines working in silos. We want to get over all that stuff so that we are working in a very interdisciplinary way, because that's the only way that we believe that we will address those really wicked problems that are affecting the planet and the types of challenges that we currently face across the globe. So, in terms of the focus area for this programme, and in terms of what it's going to provide into the local ecosystem, then skills and talent I've already mentioned. We also do a lot of research within this area, and through the fantastic and certainly nation-leading research capabilities we have around data within the Edinburgh region, we're looking to take that on to another level altogether as well. We also talk in terms of adoption, and adoption in our language really means that is about working with companies and organizations, whether those be government, other public sector organizations, or with private sector organizations, in order that they can fully understand and harness the opportunity that data-driven decision-making offers to their organizations, and indeed the services and how that translates into services that are used by local citizens. I've mentioned data. We're looking to pull together about 1,000 different types of data together as we develop this programme across those various disciplines that I've mentioned, in order that we have this very rich data set with which organisations and researchers can work, in order that we come up with the types of breakthroughs that we're going to really need over in the coming years. And entrepreneurship is also very important within this. So we want to make sure that there is a constant flow of new companies that are building upon the skills and research and the types of facilities that we'll make available for working with data, and see that turn into a stream of new companies that are innovating for public good as we move forward. So we're building a platform, and hopefully you get the sense that this programme is about platform building, but our local partners within the region, within the public sector, recognise the opportunity that this platform provides. And indeed, the idea of data-driven innovation is embedded within the future plans for economic development within our region, as has been agreed with public and private sector partners. So we've recently produced our regional prosperity framework, which describes the major drivers of growth within our region for the next 20 years, and how initiatives like the Data-Driven Innovation Programme are going to provide the capabilities upon which this economic prosperity framework is going to be realised. So I hope that gives you a flavour for this initiative, and I hope you're getting a sense that this is a genuinely world-class initiative that we're putting in place within the region, that this is a scale of investment that is very, very brave, and on behalf of the various funding partners, and I guess I've already mentioned, we feel a lot of responsibility for ensuring that this delivers good for our citizens within the region and within our country and internationally as well. As I say, that's great, and I've talked a little bit about the buildings that we're putting up and the platform we're building, but the interesting thing is what happens within those buildings. So I just want to describe a little selection of the types of things that we're undertaking. So the notion of using data to inform government policy is very, very important to us. Within the devolved Scottish Government, we have an initiative called Research Data Scotland, which is all about making available that large range of data assets that the public sector develops routinely. And so the Research Data Scotland initiative, as it develops, we very much hope of advances public sector services in a number of areas, in particular health and social care and social well-being. And the Research Data Scotland initiative is hosted from the facilities that I've mentioned that have been put in place as part of the Data-Driven Innovation Programme. So that whole notion of the connection between data and policy, hopefully you can see, is very, very important to us. It's also very important that we continue to work with partners both locally and within the UK and Europe, but also internationally as well. One example of those international collaborations is an initiative called the Data for Children Collaborative, which has been established between the University of Edinburgh, Scottish Government and UNICEF. And it is taking on and addressing a number of challenges that are identified by UNICEF, and then which we bring in experts from the university in order to develop approaches and solutions. So one of the questions that UNICEF was asking was, what is the risk to children globally of climate change? What does that mean? And so one of the initiatives, and the results of this are available online, is to create a children's climate risk index for all countries across the globe. So hopefully with that information, it can start to encourage discussions with policy makers as regarding how do we alleviate these challenges for our children across the globe. So a very important initiative for us. As I've mentioned previously, the whole notion of skills, we believe, has got to go as far into the education system as it's possible to go. In our case, that means that we are taking children at primary school age, so from 5 years and up, through this data skills development journey as well. So again, this is about working in collaboration with, it's not just the university, but with all those various education providers and pulling them together so we can provide that pathway for learning at all different stages. And indeed, my principal visited one of these primary schools recently, and there was a couple of children there, probably about 10 years old, and they had a piece of paper that had a flat line on it, and there was a little spike. And they said to him, "Do you know what that is?" And he said, "I have no idea what that is." And they said, "Well, with the equipment that has been provided, we were able to detect the latest earthquake in Tonga. And by using an equation that was provided to us by academic colleagues within the university, we were able to work out how far away that the eruption was and how strong it was." And for him to hear children that young to be working with data in that very sophisticated ways, it's starting to say, do you know what, we're starting to get somewhere on this initiative. Another big initiative for us as well is the Smart Data Foundry. And this is all about utilising finance, which, let's be honest, doesn't have the best of reputations, but how do we use financial information for good? So for example, the Smart Data Foundry is working on a number of missions. And so one of those, for example, is the creation of synthetic data from real data so that all the anonymity is preserved, yet we provide usable data sets in order that, for example, coming back from COVID was an area that was pursued through this type of approach, and seeing what the real economic impacts were. So things like that, how do we use data for good? How do we overcome unintended bias in the types of algorithms that are used to provide finance, etc., etc. So a very important initiative for the university and for our programme. And then finally, I mentioned previously the importance of entrepreneurship. And what this has allowed us to do is to pull together a whole suite of initiatives that help take technologies out of universities or helps companies that are on later stages of their entrepreneurship journey. And that culminates in our local investor showcase called Engage, Invest, Exploit, where we have, it's normally about 600 people coming to the region to hear about those, the very best of the innovations that are coming out of both the institution of the University of Edinburgh, but also more broadly our region and Scotland as a whole. An example where we are working very closely with industry in a very data-centric way is with engineering companies. We have a very rich tidal energy potential around the coast of Scotland. And we are undertaking an initiative that allows equipment that can be used to generate energy from tidal streams to be tested very robustly on land in a very economically efficient fashion to ensure that we can start to deploy equipment that allows that, that very rich source of renewable energy to be exploited. And also we work regularly to pull out the effectively the ideas that our academic community maybe has in their heads, but can't find ways to directly undertake activities around. So we have open calls where we provide a little bit of funding that allows academic colleagues to develop pilot projects that hopefully get to a point where we're in a position to go to other funding bodies to take those ideas and concepts to the next stage as well. So hopefully that's given you a flavour of the DDI programme and also the activities and some of the activities and initiatives that we're undertaking. But as I say, it's been a fantastic opportunity for me to learn as well. And so maybe some of the takeaways that I've taken from the various talks that we've been able to host as a result of this programme, I've just tried to summarise here. So let's not pretend that the existing data and digital infrastructure is perfect. It's not inclusive, it's not sustainable, and it certainly isn't human-centric. So is there an opportunity for us collectively to start to look at ways and work, for example, on the activities of organisations like the Open Data Foundation? Are there opportunities for us to take those types of activities and make them mainstream within our respective regions so that technology works more effectively for people in our communities? Is there also opportunities for us to do significantly more cross-hemisphere collaborations? So I guess this notion of not localized innovation, but localizable innovations, I think is potentially a very interesting concept. So the idea here is where we're thinking about innovations, we're taking that local context of the way people live and work into account as we innovate, so that we are innovating collectively for larger and larger communities of people, and not on the notion of some narrow market segment that's dreamt up by marketing departments within organizations. I've talked already about the importance of data ethics to the data-driven innovation programme. And I guess one very illuminating presentation for me was this notion that it's not only about how data is used is political, but the very fact that data, when we are creating data sets, pulling those together, then it's already political at that stage, because data is never perfect and inferences need to be made in order to create usable data sets. So again, is there opportunities there, but that by better understanding our different contexts, then we're able to drive ethics very deep into that into that data supply chain. It's also, I think, it wouldn't be rocket science if we were here saying that we need to think more effectively about the equity in terms of the use of data between those that provide data and those who exploit it, for example, on commercial and propositions. And that affects us all. It doesn't matter where we're sitting in the world. That is an issue wherever we are and under whichever data frameworks and regimes are being implemented. So again, are there opportunities there where we think about that as less about narrow challenges that affect particular regions or particular markets, but as a global challenge that affects us all? And is there opportunities to create better ways of working and better solutions in a global fashion as well? And I guess fundamentally, when we talk about data, we talk a lot about technology, and it can get quite intangible. And I guess the last thing if I leave you with is this notion that let's never forget that when we talk about data, that there are humans attached to that data, and it is how we affect humans and how we affect the lives of our citizens. That is how we will be ultimately measured, and not necessarily about dollars and cents. So at that point, I will stop. Maybe I've spoken a little bit longer than I'd originally planned, but I'm a little bit passionate about this. But I'll stop sharing now, and I would be delighted to address any questions that you might have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor John Scott. That was quite interesting, right? Quite a lot of insights being shared, right? Right. So something key for me that I learned of is we should recognize that there are humans behind this data. So us to understand that human are architects, right? So thank you so much. We have 10 to 15 minutes to take questions. So please, if you have questions, I want you to raise your hand, your virtual hand, right? So we can hand over the mic to you. Thank you so much. Questions, comments before going to the second part of the webinar. So I'd like to take your questions. Please, you can use your digital hand. Okay. Do we have anyone? Hello. Okay, I have Dr. Agatha. All right, so please, you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Deji. So, based on his presentation, he made mention of some areas and areas regarding trade, and I really want to know which of the areas in trade that the DDI is actually coming up with data and the rest of them. Then he also mentioned about funding and a call, open call. So is it restricted to the university there, or is open to anybody that is also interested in DDI who also apply and be considered for a grant in that area? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Agatha. I think, Prof, do you want to respond to that? No? Hello?
He's muted. He's muted.
Oh, okay. While we are waiting for Prof, you have any other person that has a question? Hello?
Okay. I don't know if you get what I asked. He's muted.
Yes, sorry. The system was stopping me from coming off mute there. So yes, in terms of trade, that is the acronym that we use for the various areas that we are seeking to influence. Fundamentally, I guess if I was going to pick on one of those, it would be this element of talent and skills development, because if we're not doing that, then we're not creating something that is sustainable going forward in time. So that's what I would say for me is probably the biggest one. And the key thing is about this program is it's allowing us to connect that flow of skilled people into our economy in ways that perhaps wouldn't have happened without the program being exist. But skills is the fundamental for me. Agata, I would be delighted to have a separate conversation about where there's potentially opportunities for working. So if you'd like to do that, I would be delighted to take that offline, and we can start to have a little bit of a separate exchange. I'd be absolutely delighted to do that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Prof. We have Obina Wachuku. Please, you can.
Okay. Hello, good day.
Yes, good day. Go on.
Please, I joined the session late, so I did not get clearly the introductory aspect of the whole program. So please, I don't know if he can just give me a brief summary of what DDI is all about, so that I was trying to, gather myself and join, but I was not getting things very clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Though the slide will be shared, right? And majorly the discussion has been around leveraging data to build enterprise, to build innovative solution, right? But I think possibly, since we have your email, right, we can send the slides to you, and you can have access to that slide. Of course, everyone would have access to the slide, right? Yeah, Prof, I have a particular question. I like it when you talk about not working in silo, then looking at what we also do at Apollo Global, trying to marry the town and the gown together. And I see that has actually been a success in what you talking about the University of Edinburgh and the likes, right? But in the Nigerian context, there is always the gap of marrying the town and the gown, right? And I think that's one of the critical things that Apollo Global is actually trying to solve, a problem we're trying to solve. Then my particular question would be around when you talk about data-driven entrepreneurship, right? And I want to ask that what has been the success rate internally within the university in terms of leveraging what BE Center is doing with the Future Institutes, with, right? I would like to know what the success rate has been, right? And the success rate for me would be that how many spin out has been able to create it. I think that is number one, because Nigerian universities or Nigerian tertiary institutions these days are actually looking at sustainability. We have what we'll call university autonomy and the like, but really we want a situation where the university itself can create spin outs, right? Spin out that would transform to become unicorns, right? So I would like to know how your university has been able to do this, because it's one of the reasons why we're actually putting together high-level delegates, right, from tertiary institutions, private sector, together to go on a tour to the UK, not just to your university in February, right? I know Professor GB will be talking about it, but I know he's already running late, right? But then we'd like to know more about how are you able to develop or to create this kind of environment where internally within the university there is each center or each department or each faculty is able to leverage on the resources in faculty A to create or develop spin-outs, right? I think that is very critical for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a very interesting question. You mentioned also this idea of town and gown, and I think the universities have a very important role to play, but they can't do it themselves. They can't do it themselves. They are organisations that are about. They are seats of learning, seats of research, and the whole process of taking companies through to successful funding rounds, etc., is significantly broader. However, to give you a flavour of the types of things that we're doing at Edinburgh, as I say, we've pulled together this data-driven entrepreneurship programme that helps, for example, PhD students to think about the commercial impacts of the research activities that they've undertaken. We also have something called Old College Capital, which is a small fund that we can utilise in order to provide some early seed funding for initiatives that are coming out of the university. But also we're working with government here to say there's no point in us doing this within our particular region and then perhaps in other regions nothing happens or something different happens. So Scottish Government is launching an initiative called TechScaler, and it's all about providing that consistent pathway for companies that are coming out of the universities, for example, and provides them with the support that they need that's specific to the opportunities that they're facing and specific to the stage of development that they're at. So I see what we're doing is very important, but we're only one part of that wider ecosystem that needs to be put in place if for success.
Awesome. Great. Thank
I'll
you
tell
so
you
much.
about it in February.
Hello. Sorry, what did you say?
I'll tell you about it in February if you come over.
Awesome. Good. Great. Do we have any other person with question? Because I would like to take some inputs from some of our professors on the call. Hello.
Hello, just for clarity,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Go
Okay.
on.
He mentioned the EIDF, Edinburgh International Data Faculty. Is it an open center one can actually get data from? And if yes, what are the different assets that is available within the faculty? So for students that are doing their research and you need some data to work with, if they are within that faculty that one can actually get for their work. So let him just throw some light on that. Thank you.
Okay.
So in terms of the types of data sources, that will include, for example, public data that's been generated from governments. GB might want to mention the types of data sources that are emerging from in the financial sector. And we also have arrangements already in place with the health authorities within the region as well, so that access to health data can be achieved, particularly for research purposes. So there is a variety of data sets and data sources that will be getting made available through the facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. It seems. Hello. Hello. Yes.
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yeah.
Yes, we'll have Professor Shola Adeshola, right, from the Oxford Brookes University. She has some comments to make. Hello, Prof.
Okay, I think it was the same problem that Professor Scott had with meeting himself. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I can't show myself on the video right now, but thank you very much, Professor John, for your insightful presentation. I think the question I want to ask, or maybe a reflection, has actually been taken up by DG. I'm at Oxford Brookes University, and the interesting point is about this, data-driven entrepreneurship, and regarding the universities in Nigeria, how we can actually kind of scale up, university spin-outs. So I think it will be interesting, and it's, again, just like you mentioned earlier, maybe it's a conversation that needs to be taken out of here between Edinburgh, Apollo Innovations, and maybe other universities in the UK that are interested in working together as kind of a consortium, collaborative partnership, to work on this data-driven entrepreneurship. So I do research on university spin-outs in Nigeria, and I'm just wrapping up my projects, actually looking at spin-out and commercialization. and I'm actually delivering reports or final presentation on my research in December. So it'll be interesting. I would love to invite you. But I think it's important that actually since you are inviting partners, collaboration, I think it's something that's definitely Oxford Brookes University will be interested working with Opolo Global Innovations and University of Edinburgh on this. You mentioned also the skills working with universities, because we know that university, the issue that we have right now is not just about spin-out, but perhaps even also on patents. So where we don't have much of data on that, but definitely on the spin-outs, I think it's something that we can pick up, maybe kind of follow up, as a kind of a consortium, working together. And definitely Oxford Brookes University will be interested working with Apollo and yourself. So thank you for that, for the presentation. I think it's very insightful. And you mentioned obviously the funding, and I know somebody asked earlier, whether it's limited, is it limited to UK alone, or can institutions in Nigeria join in that partnership? I think if you can just maybe elaborate more on that. Thank you very much.
So I guess on your first point around collaborations, absolutely. So for example, we are in some discussions just now with the University of Helsinki around a very similar topic, to say how can we make our early stage companies as strong as possible. So for example, in the context of Helsinki, would it be useful for companies coming out of Edinburgh to spend time in Helsinki and vice versa? If you take that notion and you think about people who are seeking to innovate for global change, why wouldn't someone from Lagos, for example, why wouldn't they come to Edinburgh or Oxford or vice versa, if that is going to help take the propositions that they are investigating and investing in and make them as robust as possible? Why wouldn't we seek to achieve those types of partnerships? It would seem an eminently sensible thing and potentially a very far-reaching type of initiative to try and pursue. And then on the second point around about funding, I'm more than happy to talk about that one. It gets it's a little bit, as you'll know, in the university sector, funding becomes complicated, but there are a number of initiatives that we are undertaking, like the UNICEF project, for example, where there would be opportunities for international collaboration.
Yeah, thank you very much. That would be fantastic. I think we'll follow it up, and I think they will follow it up by arranging a meeting. Thanve you very much. I've just posted a link. I've just posted a link as kind of a general invitation, especially for those who are in Nigeria. The project is about Nigerian university spin-outs. So please follow the link and register to attend on the 14th of December. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Hello. Okay, thank you so much, Prof. I think that was really a fantastic one. But I would like to take the input of Mr. Uche, Dr. Uche Olu now.
Hello.
Oh, yes, doctor.
Yes. What are you saying? Sorry, I was.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, we'd like to take your inputs now, your comments.
Okay, fine. I think the program, from what I've seen, it's quite interesting, especially in terms of the collaboration aspect. And I feel that there are a lot of opportunities, especially for my institute. I used to be past president for those of you who may not know me. I used to be past president of Chartered Institute of Bankers, and we are fintech driven because the banks and bankers are within our purview. So how do we create value? How do we impact the banking sector, the banking community? And of course, banking today is financial services, fintech driven. So I see us having to find a way of collaborating with this great institute and see with Okpolo to see how we can get it. I'm quite impressed with what I have seen, heard, And I believe that it will, I don't know how I'm going to, maybe we'll set up a proper meeting. I'll talk to my registrar and the president so that we can set up a proper thing so that we can, really, because there are a lot of issues in the banking industry, especially in the cybersecurity area. How do we collaborate in that area? Then the financial services inclusion that we're talking about, how do we, those are the things that, we're looking at. I think, let me thank Okpolo for giving me this great opportunity of being part of this program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, I think someone is asking a question. Okay. Right. Okay, so the next session was was to start 4:30. I had to drop off. Yeah, that's Professor GB, like Benga Ibikole, had to drop off. He had he had an emergency, so he had to drop off. Right. But the floor is open. Next 5 minutes. If you have any other comment, please make your comments while we will reach out to you to let you know when next we'll be holding the session for Professor GB Ibikole, right? Okay, so Femi Kalijai, you have a comment.
All right, thank you so much, JJ. Can you hear me? It's been an interesting session. I was just glued to the screen with my books filled up while taking the insightful session earlier. A very big thank you to John. Just to also share, in the world of today, data is actually key. Several data exist in the private sector, several data exist in the hands of some individual, and some other data also existing in the hands of the, speaking from Nigerian perspective, really, and in the hands of the government agency and the government. And this data is crucial for everybody to use. Yeah, there is a bit of, we need to look at the privacy of data, but it's also important to see how we can have a bit of an open data that will allow people who require the information in a particular sector to leverage on those information to an extent to see how they can drive their development in terms of accelerating what they are doing or being able to make more impact or be able to make more informed decisions. Because from the data, you'll be able to interpolate and also be able to read and analyze that will be useful in making your decision. So maybe my own question or my comment is how, looking at the future of technology and the trend in generation-wise, what will be that future where, or that position, or that point, where we can have a bit of where we can have a bit of open data where people can use that data to make some informed decision and also to accelerate their business.
Hello, Femi, we can't hear you anymore. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, are you alive? I can hear you.
Okay, it seems we lost Femi Kalijai. All right. Oh, okay, he finally drops off. Okay, so I think we've actually come to the end of the event, but then we have The chairman of Apollo Global Innovation on the call, the person of Dr. Segun Aina, will be giving us a closing remark for this particular webinar. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure anyone can hear me. Dr. Agatha, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining the call. Just like I mentioned earlier about our mission to the UK, right? This is just a teaser, right? A major innovation tour to the UK is scheduled for February 23rd. And like I mentioned earlier, that this particular innovation tour would be more of us learning from institutions that have actually done it successfully before in the tertiary institution, in the private institutions in the UK, learn how they've been able to do it successfully, then replicate it contextually here in Nigeria. How do we scale innovation from research beyond research? How do we scale innovation beyond ideas, right? So thank you so much for joining this particular call. Before I end of the week, I will be reaching out to you when we'll be having the session for Professor GB Bikunle, which is also going to be a fantastic one like this. Hello? Okay. So thank you so much for joining the call. Thank you.